I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin.
I'm Jake.
And this is Movie Matters. Today we're talking about The Natural from 1984, another Barry Levinson film. We just did Rain Man, and this director did The Natural.
I think this is the second time we've accidentally had the same director back to back.
Yeah, I totally forgot that he did this movie. So this month we're doing all baseball movies, and in honor of the baseball season starting up. I love baseball. Jake, I know you love baseball. We used to go to Cubs games all the time together as kids.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the movie?
I liked it a lot. There were a few times in the movie where I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about it. And so the first thing that caught me off guard was Robert Redford, like in the very beginning, because I was like, I thought he was already pretty old, like at the time that this movie was filmed. Because I'm like remembering, I'm like, okay, he was in Captain America and he was really old. So I was like trying to do math to figure out. I was like, then it was like, it obviously made sense a little bit later, but the second thing, he gets blown away in like within the first half hour of the movie, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was
pretty
like,
wild.
holy shit. So yeah, that was like jarring. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
So that was that was pretty cool, because it's probably about the closest experience I could get to watching it like when it came out, because I had no knowledge of anything about the movie going into it. So
I love going into movies like that, going in blind. That's always super fun, because then you appreciate it more, especially, we watch the trailer for it. The trailer doesn't really give too much away, which is great compared to all the other movies we talk about and watch the trailers for. But yeah, I've seen this movie a handful of times. It's one of my all-time favorite baseball movies. That's why I wanted to do it first for all our baseball movies we're doing this month, because I love this movie. But yes, Robert Redford is old as fuck. He is 47. He was 47 at the time of filming this movie. And in the beginning, he plays a 19-year-old.
Yeah. He doesn't look terrible, but I was like really confused. I was like, I'm pretty sure that he's like well into his 40s when this was filmed. So I was like, because even like Glenn Close doesn't look particularly young either.
No.
Doing the math on that too, I was like, she had to be pretty old when this was filmed also. So and then so the film takes place in two different eras, when he's 19 and then 35. I took notice of that, of him being old in the beginning this time around compared to my last viewings. Obviously, when we watch movies, for me, I put these under a microscope a little bit and look a little bit deeper into it, in contrast to my previous viewings of this movie, definitely. Yeah.
This movie, the soundtrack is like one of my favorites. Randy Newman knocks it out of the park, pun intended, with this one. It's so good, because we talked about this movie when we were kind of building the schedule, and I like briefly played you the soundtrack because it's just so good.
Yeah. It definitely sets the tone of the movie. It's like like timeless is like the best way that I can think of to describe it. Like it's not definitely 80s, but it's also not, whatever time period the movie takes place in, because I was also
30s.
struggling with that too a
I
little
think
bit.
it's 1939, I think.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I was like it seemed like it started in like the 20s. But I was like, but then it would put it right in the middle of the Great Depression when he's playing professional, and I was like, nobody seems that strapped for cash. So I was like, I don't know, but I tried to not think too hard about that.
Yeah, everyone going to the baseball game is in like suits and like dresses and stuff. I was like blown away by that little aspect.
Well, I mean, like nobody even really discusses finances outside of like Roy's
Gus?
Contract.
Yeah.
And Gus's
bookie Gus,
betting.
who
But
is
like nobody ever says like, oh man, like I don't know when I'm gonna feed my family or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of like the other characters, I mean, this cast is stacked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Robert Redford, Glenn Close, Robert Prosky, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley is awesome in this. Joe Don Baker, Robert Duvall. I mean, the cast is just awesome. Yeah, I mean, and they all are so well acted. I mean, this movie was nominated for 4 Oscars, didn't win any. Obviously, we talked about Rain Man being Barry Levinson. Barry Levinson won Best Director for that, and it won Best Picture. This was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Glenn Close. Little fun fact, Caleb Deschanel, who did the cinematography, that's Zoe Deschanel's father, New Girl.
I figured.
Yep. It was nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Music by Randy Newman, which surprising that Newman didn't win the Oscar.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at that.
Yeah. The cinematography is great in this movie. The slow-mo shots of, him pitching and him hitting home runs is great. It's just such a feel-good type of movie, even with him getting blown away in the first, third of the movie. Not even.
Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes in, he gets blown away, actually. It's like pretty early on.
Yeah. I feel like they, in the spirit of they don't make them like they used to, they don't make really good inspirational sports movies like this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last like really good one, and I really can't think of one. Like nothing really comes to mind. Like The Rookie comes to mind, but that's
Moneyball.
almost
Moneyball would probably be the most recent one.
but Moneyball's more like, I don't know that it's inspirational. It's not about
very
like someone overcoming, a difficulty and becoming the best player after getting shot or whatever,
This movie this movie has Rudy vibes. Did you ever see Rudy from the 90s?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Maybe Remember the Titans. That's a good movie.
Yeah, but they haven't made a ton of really good sports movies in a bit.
Yeah.
And when we say sports, I'd say predominantly we're thinking baseball, or like football movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I mean it's so good. I mean I'm shocked you've never seen it.
I am too, to be honest. Like there's like a whole, there's like a giant gap in movies that I've seen, and they're like all sports movies. Like oddly enough, I couldn't tell you why. Like my parents didn't watch movies like this, but apparently they didn't, because I've never seen like any of them. Like all of the baseball movies we're gonna watch this month, I have never seen
Any of them.
No.
Oh shoot, I forgot. That's awesome. There's some I haven't. There's some I haven't seen. But for me, like growing up, my my parents liked movies, but I was like my own trailblazer with movies. I would just go to, Circuit City when it was open, or like Blockbuster or Best Buy, and just like blind buy stuff off the shelf and just be like, oh, this cast looks good. Like, I'm going to try this. And I feel like this was definitely one of them, but I feel like my dad had seen it and was like, oh, yeah, that's a great movie. Like, let's watch it. So I don't remember when I first saw this movie, but I've seen it at least 5 times, at least, because it's just so good. And I really, really was excited to watch it this week, and I really enjoyed it again. I mean, I'm a big fan of it. The story is very relatable. I don't know if you like read some trivia on it, but there's kind of like it's kind of almost like a Greek mythology style like narrative to it, with like, for example, like the writings of Homer. Roy Hobbs is what is it?
Odysseus.
Odysseus, yep. And he's trying to find his way home. Max Mercy is Vulcan, the god of fire and forging. He can make you or break you. It's always, he's always seen in red or brown clothing. Pop Fisher is Zeus, king of the gods. His uniform is number 1, and both the oak tree and lightning bolt, with the Wonder Boy bat, which is awesome, and I want to get into that, are his symbols. The judge is Hades. He's always in dark clothing, and he's always in the dark, and he's like, oh yeah, I used to be afraid of the dark, and now I love being in it, and that's how I overcame. Yeah, just molded by it. Memo Paris is Calypso. I mean, there's all these kind of Greek mythological characters in this, because this movie is based on a book by Bernard Malamud, and he based it on King Arthur.
Okay.
And his sword and being worthy and all that, which is really cool. And the team that Roy plays on is the Knights. So there's a lot of cool parallels to those novels in the movie. But in his novel, in Bernard's novel, it was a darker novel, and this, they kind of changed it and were like, hey, let's make something more inspirational and uplifting and entertaining, and people actually prefer this to the book, which is cool. I mean, I get that. I mean, you don't want something depressing. You want uplifting and fun, and it's kind of spiritual too. From a character standpoint too, of the women in the movie. For example, Glenn Close, Iris, she's like the guardian angel, and even
she's like always in white.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And there's that scene where he's in his slump and she stands up in the crowd, and they had just shot it just perfectly with the sunlight kind of coming in. Yeah. And it looks like a halo. And she, again, she's the guardian angel. But then you have the opposite, Memo Paris, who's pretty much always in black, and she's kind of the devil and like the bad character and bad luck, and she's the cause of it. And
and is it Harriet?
Is that the girl at the beginning?
Yeah, the girl that shoots him. Yeah. She's also all in black. Yep. Every time you see her, which you don't see her that often, but or beyond like the beginning of the movie. But yeah, I mean, and when she shoots him, she's actually wearing like a funeral like veil. Yeah. Which is kind of creepy. So very. Yeah. But yeah, definitely some like good and evil, like spiritual conflict kind of vibes. Symbolism.
All
metaphor.
The good things. Yeah. What do you call those? Metaphor? Yeah, it's definitely an awesome book. I mean, I the beginning obviously starts with his dad saying he's got a gift, but then he passes away from a heart attack, and then there's that crazy storm, and the lightning strikes the tree, and he makes his bat out of the tree, which is so awesome. And I love that. But it also kind of like, I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this, we're Cubs fans, and it just like when they're like all looking at the bat, it makes me think of Sammy Sosa with his cork bat.
Yeah. Like I was slightly upset because there was a lot of talk about the Cubs in the beginning, and I was like, oh cool, it's gonna be like a Cubs movie, and then no, he doesn't go to the
New
Cubs.
York.
I was like, God damn it.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, oh well.
And they don't even shoot it in
Fictional
Wrigley.
baseball team. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no. Like none of the locations are correct, but it's okay.
No, but it was still cool. Yeah. Yeah, I love that he strikes out the whammer. Like he's this rookie kid, and he's just got this gift. Even though he's not a kid, he's 47. It's just, yeah, it's awesome. And I love how he's kind of the underdog. Like when he comes back into baseball, and he's older, and they're all like, "Oh, you're a has-been, and you're not good." And then he gets up to bat, for batting practice and just shows them all up. I love that. And he's just cracking them out of the park. Yeah, and then like the knock the cover off the ball, and that that's the song by Randy Newman, knock the cover off the ball, and like what is it? Wilford Brimley's character is like, yeah, just go out there and knock the cover off the ball, and he actually does it, which is super cool.
Yeah,
yeah, it's just a fun, good baseball movie.
Yeah, it's good and wholesome. There's not a bunch of like gratuitous sex or violence or swearing or anything. So like that's I mean, this is probably the first PG movie we've watched so far.
No, because wasn't Gremlins PG?
Oh, maybe Gremlins was. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's PG.
But I mean, even Gremlins is like a questionable PG because
Very
PG-13 hadn't existed yet. But yeah, I mean, like the movie's extremely well done. The script writing is great. The dialogue is awesome. Like you said, there's a lot of symbolism, but it's enjoyable even if you don't pick up on all of that stuff. I feel like sometimes movies that are like steeped in symbolism, like if you don't pick up on it, it's just not as enjoyable. Where this movie, there's like a surface level where it's like, oh, that's a great baseball movie, and then there's like all these other things going on below it, and you can dive in if you feel like it, which is, in my opinion, that's the hallmark of a very well done movie, if that's what you're going for. I will say, and I don't know if you have any trivia on this, I'd be curious to know, but it felt like to me that this should have been a 4-hour movie and they cut it down like a lot. I don't feel like, I don't feel like the plot was ever affected, if that was the case, but there were a couple times where I felt like something was underdeveloped. The two instances that I can think of off the top of my head right now are his like relationship with the judge and Max seems to just start at like, I hate you, which is like weird a little bit. I know he gets told the circumstances around the selling of the coach's shares and stuff, and like, like that's kind of shitty, but like it's not a reason for him to be like, fuck you in the meeting, about his contract like extension and stuff. So I thought like that maybe they like cut out some like previous interactions or something, and like that maybe would have painted him in like a worse light, or maybe interactions with other people on the team. I don't know, but and also like he does the same thing with Max, not knowing anything about Max either, So I don't know. That just felt like that was a little underdeveloped.
Okay.
Not that it ruins like the plot of the movie. Like it's pretty obvious that they're both bad guys. So, that's just being a little nitpicky. The other thing was the reveal that he has a son, I feel like that came out of nowhere. Because I mean, he meets Glenn Close in Chicago after a game. They go to dinner, and then I think they go to that bar and like get lemonade, and then they go hang out again like at her house or whatever. And like, there's no mention of a kid that I heard through like that entire thing. And then all of a sudden she's like with this kid who's conveniently 16, and she's like, "This is your kid." I was like,
Yeah.
huh, okay. Did I miss something, or did they just kind of like shoehorn that in there?
So, to answer the first question on the trivia portion, no, I didn't read anywhere that there was like an extended cut or anything like that. I wonder, and whoever's listening, if you know of any behind the scenes trivia on it, if there's any type of scenes that were cut or anything like that, let us know. But I didn't find anything. So, rewatching this again, I hadn't seen it in a while. In the beginning, when Robert Duvall, Roy, and Iris, Glenn Close, are in that barn, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go away, marry me," and then she like takes him into the barn to like have sex. Is pretty much what happens, and
Right.
I didn't realize that, probably because I watched it when I was young, and I just don't remember that. But I remember when that happened, I was like, oh, like they're probably going to have a kid, and then, you know, that leads to the ending. So they kind of leave that breadcrumb very faintly in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's where it's not super surprising to me, but
Yeah, I mean, him having a kid is plausible for sure. Based on the beginning of the movie. I just feel like there could have been some other things dropped in, like especially once they kind of reunite, you know, later in the movie. Like, because I feel like she doesn't even bring it up until like right at the end.
Yeah, there needed to be a little more time focused on that probably, but you know, I mean, they have the little bit of a payoff at the end where he's playing catch with him like he was with his father in the beginning, which I like.
I'm not saying that it's a bad plot point, because like that's kind of what gives him the drive to go hit the, you know, winning home run and stuff, you know. So like, I mean, I get it. It's a good plot device. I feel like they, like, I don't know. I feel like you could have almost missed it too. Like, it needed to be a little bit more front focused. You know,
I get that.
Like,
I think on repeat viewings, you'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then to go back to your, like, they didn't focus on Max or the judge as much. I think you can kind of tell they're the villains. I mean, even in the beginning where they're always against him. They're always betting against him. But yeah, I mean, I get it. They could have focused on it a little more, but I think that like the judge and Gus are like betting against the Knights, and they want them to lose. And then you have this amazing superstar Roy come in and screws all their betting up, and I think that plays into it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they are the villains, but there's no like main central antagonist really. There's multiple antagonists, but there's not one super strong central one. If you think about it, it's just people trying to crush, you know, his spirit and diminish his talent and basically kill him. I mean, there's literally like a bunch, like, you know, obviously the Harriet, the one like lady on the train tries to kill him literally, and then Memo basically tries to kill him.
Yeah,
which is crazy. And there's this super awesome line where, you know, it's a good payoff in the writing, in my opinion, where they're first kind of having their fun together, Roy and Memo, Kim Basinger, and she's like, I feel like I've known you, and like I feel like I know you or something, and there's that payoff line at the end where he's like, "I did know you, Memo. Like I've known you before," and it's kind of that cold line where he's just like, "You're the same as Harriet. Like you're just literally trying to squash my dreams and literally try to kill him." So I think that's a really good payoff. Which you could maybe argue that she's the main antagonist of the movie. And it's interesting because there's a lot. And what's the Gus, the betting guy? He is, he's also in Christmas Story. He's the dad in a Christmas Story. He chose to not take credit for this movie because he had a small role and like signed on super late and basically wasn't being paid a ton of money. So he's like, I'll just go uncredited. So that's pretty interesting. I think you should watch the movie again. And the question is, will you watch the movie again?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I'm nitpicking.
Well, I mean, that's what we
point.
do. That's what we're supposed to do.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think any of this really affects the overall movie. I just thought there were a couple things that were like those are the things that struck me as like a little bit odd.
Yeah.
But like you said, like watching this for a commentary podcast show, I'm like really paying attention and really digging into things. And if I was just watching this like for the first time, I probably wouldn't have cared at all about those things. But
movies to me are like a good restaurant. Whenever I go to a restaurant, my main question is, would I go back? And that's if I enjoy it, if I like it. That's the same thing for movies for me for the most part. It's like, if I enjoy it, would I go back to it? And it's, obviously with this movie, I've seen it a handful of times. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it again in my lifetime, multiple times, because it's just a great movie and a great baseball movie. It's really good. I mean, the ending is very typical, in my opinion, of, bottom of the ninth, and you've got two men on base, and you're almost full count. That style of like, it's coming down to the last pitch, and you have to like, it's either this or you're done. The season's over, and him being put in that situation, and it basically being the end of certain people's careers, like Wilford Brimley's career, being the manager of the Knights, and him. It's just him trying to keep it alive, and I love that. I don't know. It's just it's like an underdog feel good story, and most sports movies are like that. The underdog, even though he's not the underdog, he's like the best player that ever lived.
Yeah,
in the movie,
but he's like almost 50 though, so it's unexpected. I think is the better way to put it. And then like, I mean, their team is the underdog team, and like. I do like that they didn't have Roy be the only reason that they win. And like there's a few instances during like the montage of them winning where it's clear that like they're building confidence as a team and they're all playing better. I think that's like the key to any good sports movie is like you can have like the all-star, but if the rest of the team doesn't also like rise up to the occasion, then it's just not as good. You know?
And there's that one scene that I really think amplifies that is when, and I don't know the actor's name. It's one of the players. He is like, oh, like I really like that patch. Can I, that lightning bolts like, and he gives him a patch on his arm. And he starts cracking, just like hitting awesome bombs, and then cut to like the whole team has that patch. And it's kind of going to that montage of inspiring confidence and building that team up from the ashes,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I mean, I wouldn't say that the team is like, dysfunctional in the beginning, but they're pretty close.
They're pretty bad.
And like by the end, they're like all, like unified, and they're all like buddy and stuff. Yeah. So like it's a good I don't know. It just adds another element to the like feel good aspect of the movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean they're star players. Michael Madsen, who plays Bump Bailey, who runs in headfirst into the outfield and kills himself. Basically,
Yeah.
Doesn't really kill himself, but he dies by literally running into the wall,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how this movie's going to stack up to the other movies we watch this month, because I'm sure we're going to compare all of them together and say, which baseball movie is going to be the best, and at the end of the month we'll say, hey, we think this is kind of the ranking order, at least for the ones we're watching for the 80s. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that's going to play out, because we've got a few that I've never seen as well, or I haven't seen in a long time.
And I think several of the movies this month are period pieces. I'm pretty sure, right? Obviously, this one was.
It's a good question.
I think Field of Dreams is.
I thought we canceled that one. Are we watching that one still?
Yeah.
I want to watch Brewster's Millions.
Oh, okay.
We might cancel that, so
Yeah.
hold your phones. That one's
League of
pretty
Their Own
mainstream.
Is a period
Yeah.
piece. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I've seen Major League, but I haven't seen it in forever. So spoiler,
Yeah.
these are the ones we're doing. Yeah, like I said, I've never seen Bull Durham. I've never seen that one. I don't think that one's period. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that one.
And I think we're going to do Brewster's Millions or Field of Dreams. I know one of my buddies has been telling me to watch Brewster's Millions, and I've never seen it. And it's John Candy, who I love. So, and Richard
Well, we'll
Pryor.
do that next week then.
Okay, I'm down. Sweet. Yeah, so we're excited for this month. It's all baseball. Baseball's starting back up. Hopefully this gets you in the baseball spirit. Yeah, we really enjoy it. Also, Jake, don't know if you guys know that Jake has another podcast called Bourbon Matters. That's kind of how I got in with him and wanted to do this podcast, because I know he knows about podcasting and bourbon.
Obviously.
And take a look at his background if you're watching, and you can see all the bourbon in there. He is doing awesome things with that podcast. You guys should check it out. He's again, it's Bourbon Matters, and he knows his shit when it comes to bourbon. So take a look at it. Take a listen.
Yeah. Yeah. You can follow us on Instagram at Bourbon Matters, and listen to us the same places that you can listen to Movie Matters.
And so I will. I don't live in Chicago. Jake lives in Chicago. I grew up there. But I will be visiting Chicago in a little under a month, and I think Jake and I are going to do maybe either a live show or an in-person show, just him and I. We'll have some bourbon, I'm sure, and we'll do one of these movies that we're going to watch, and I'm excited for that. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying this, and like I said, check out his other podcast, and we hope you've been enjoying these movies.
Yeah. Make sure you watch this month, because baseball is important. A lot of people
America's
talk
pastime.
shit. A lot of people talk shit about baseball, but you know what? It's good, and it makes good movies. So
Yeah, they've changed the rules recently. It's not as boring as everyone says. It's also different when you go to the game. But yeah, so we'll catch you in the next one, and we'll probably do Brewster's Millions.
Yep. See you
All
next
right.
week.
Take care, guys.